We good? Ready? All right. I don't know who else will be coming. Monique's still out today?
Yes, she has
Nicole?
a fever today. Yeah. Stay away, girl. Stay away. But she's been talking to her. No, she's your oversight, but she answered me in that text. Which one? The one that the female one that we have.
Yeah, her and I've been texting this morning
Okay.
already, but
Yeah. She's been working from
Yeah. I'm sorry.
home.
Yeah, I just was one. Also, after this, I have a meeting at 9:30. Tony has a meeting at 9:30 with Olivia's lady, and then he has another one at 10. And then, but at some point today, Sim, Joseph, Tony, Clint, Caleb, Samantha. I'd love to go out and talk through some sacred seed and stuff. Okay. And then we need somebody to replace you. You got moved to the floor.
The floor.
You got moved to the floor, son. You're now praying with people.
You want to be one of my
So you better get to fasting and get spiritual in the next 3 days.
I'll try my best.
I can do that part.
What he's doing?
Yeah.
Listen to him. I mean,
Like-
walk him out to me and all that.
Just because that, you know what I mean? Like, you're normally out, you have your armor bearers grabbing people.
Mhm. Yeah.
I normally just stand there.
If you want to and you'll enjoy that, totally. If not, we can totally find somebody else. I don't want you to feel obligated.
Well, like he said, I think there needs to be two people, one person writing and then one person taking it, kind of thing.
Last year was Johnny and Thomas Glover, so you just need to find someone to hang
I
out
can
with you
help if
after.
you need help too, if you want to stay.
I just don't want to take away too many strong pieces.
Was Angie praying for people?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
But I could take an armor, I could take Candace Burton maybe.
Just grab Carson Barnes.
I think they're planning on being runners.
Oh, they're runners.
Just
The
grab
armor bearers.
Armor bearers are runners.
Like, we can totally find people that aren't.
Get Kimberly. Kimberly Basher.
Yeah, will Kimberly help me? Me and Kimberly? We can do it. Because we
So
don't.
you're partnered with Miss Elaine in Auburn,
Ramsdar?
Ramsendar, because the Fords can't make it. So, right?
correct.
So, so anyways, maybe before lunchtime, 11-ish, or whenever Tony's finished with that payroll meeting. So, all right, ready? Caleb thinks Reagan's ugly.
You're a mom.
Brenda thinks Reagan's ugly.
That's not going to go over.
That is not
Yikes.
nice, Mama.
Rude.
All right, here we go. Good morning, Samantha.
Morning.
Epilogue, last day of the book. It's a good book, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I actually want to, as a staff, read another one of his books together. Maybe we'll take the month of February off and do the book Rachel has planned for February. But I'd love to do, because we all like his writing and the way he styles things, I'd love to do Win the Day by him. I've read Win the Day before, and it's almost very similar to the red, green, yellow book that we did previously. So it's very much a productivity type, how to be successful in each day.
At your best.
Yeah, at your best. That's what,
At your best.
is that what it's called?
Yeah. I have that.
That's the one we read.
Yeah,
together.
Carrie
yeah.
Newhoff.
Carrie Newhoff, At Your Best, but his is called Win the Day. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm contemplating doing that. So if you're watching and you're interested in reading Win the Day with us, let Rachel know, and she'll connect you to that as well. Because he is very gifted at what he does. He is a very gifted writer. I've never heard him preach, but I can only imagine if he's this crafty with words and stories. Anybody ever heard him preach?
Is he a preacher?
Yeah, pastors at church in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah, that's what the whole book was.
Yeah.
Got a coffee shop, too. And his office is above it. Yep. An old crack house. I remember that. Yep.
I'm sure we're all, the epilogue's only 4 or 5 pages, 6 pages long, so I'm sure we're going to run out of stuff to say, but there is a lot of good stuff in here. So if your thing is like a paragraph, just kind of shorten it to maybe an impactful line in it so that everybody can have a chance to chomp at it, all right? Again, just tell us where you're at, and we'll journey through it together. Who wants to start?
I'll start just because it's on not page 1, but page 185, the beginning of that. I just loved the whole, not survey, what do you call it?
Study. Yeah.
Study, yeah. And then that second paragraph where it says, for example, the greatest predictor of happiness later in life is warm relationships as a child, which he explains, but just to hold value for, especially if you have kids. The kids, the relationships your kids are building now are valuable for their future, and then it means a lot as an adult when you think about who shaped your childhood. So I thought that was super cool. That was part of the study.
I agree totally. Because for me, my family is motivation for me. I want to be successful because of Maddie. I want to be successful for my kids. They motivate me more than, a lot of other things. And so because of the relationship I had with my parents and the people around me, it makes me want to, facilitate that in them as well. What are y'all giggling about?
Me and Olivia were brought up very similar.
Yeah.
So you're saying that, and we're thinking, and,
We were
and we have
both
good
like-
parents. Like, I love my
Sure.
parents. If they ever watch this, I love them. They're great parents.
Mine won't.
But
They do, hallelujah.
my parents do watch church every morning or every Sunday morning here. But like it totally like, and then going through therapy, like I had great parents, but it was never like a warm relationship. There was never a lot of loving and embracing, and that totally like made me check myself. And my kids are older now, they're 16 and one's about to be 18 next week, and then 19, about to turn 20, and I'm like, Lord, I hope I was a good mom to them, that they know like that I loved them, like, and that's almost too late now if I wasn't.
You were.
But
You were
it's
an
just one of those
incredible
things
mom.
that was like, God, I hope I wasn't my parents, which I love. They're
I think
great
it shows
parents.
because of how the relationships they have with people is warm. And
Absolutely.
so it shows down the line, very easy to recognize that they have relationships and they are warm with people and they have encouraged people. So that clearly came from you guys.
And I think with, oftentimes we push people to connect. Why? This $20 million study boils down to these 3 words. Happiness is love. Like if you want to be happy in life, surround yourself with people who love you and who you love. Yeah. And you see that in all it takes. We have an incredible staff, but all it would take is for us to hire one. I could call a name, hire this one miserable person, and our staff life is immediately different, and everybody's miserable, and they're in their office all day long. We can't be happy anymore because there's this one person that oozes, frustrations or pain or whatever. And in life, you want happiness in life. Happiness is love. When you surround yourself with people you love, when you show love, when you give love, it is, I tell Maddie when she's having rough days, ooze love on other people. Like that is in of itself happiness. Like, give it away. Like, who cares about what is in here? Give it to somebody else. Like, ooze love on other people. So, anyway. Somebody else.
I just got one line that I related to. Just says, my downside is that I have a difficult time comprehending that God's love isn't determined by my performance. I think that's inherent in all of us a little bit because our society says, your performance is what dictates how good you are. And so,
Page 187.
That's 187. Top of 187, yeah.
187, yep.
God doesn't love us because of who we are. He loves us because of who He is. When we succeed, God says, I love you. When we fail, God says, I love you. When we have faith, God says, I love you. When we doubt, God says, I love you. Love is His answer to everything. Why? Because He is love. I love that.
And I'm going to go down to the very bottom of 187, the last paragraph. Why am I trying so hard to convince you of this fact? Because we have such a hard time believing it. Part of the problem is that God has been represented by so many people in ways that misrepresent who He really is. I think that goes about with with my like upbringing and not really knowing, and then just hearing from so many different people their aspect and all that, like that just kind of put into perspective, like I have to search after him myself and not rely on what other people are saying and representing him as. Like I have to search it. I have to search it out.
Yeah, the Archbishop saying, every Christian I meet cannot quite believe that they are loved by God.
Yeah.
And it is so true. I literally was talking with Sam Cagle this morning. You'll hear this if you're watching this prior to Sacred Sunday. You'll hear this on Sunday. But I was talking with Sam Cagle this morning, and he gave his testimony on Monday night in prayer, and he said, oh, that means that got to look over my shoulder. The enemy's coming after me this week. And I said, no, it doesn't. That absolutely is not what it means. And the scripture that I'm using is from Isaiah 58:8 or something of that. Isaiah 58 is the whole chapter that I'm using, but in 58:8, it says that God's righteousness goes before you, and His glory is to protect your back. And the glory of God, when Moses says, God, show me your glory, when he says that, God says then to Moses, I'm going to pass by and you're going to see all of my goodness. So God equated his glory to you get to see all of the goodness that I am. So in Isaiah, he says that the goodness of God, every good thing God has is protecting your back, which is the psalmist of David saying, goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. The goodness of God, that's why we sing that. And so this concept that, I'm got to watch my back. The enemy's coming after me. No, he's not. The glory of God is protecting your back.
Yeah. That's so true, because that's how I feel too. Like, it's like you do good for so many days, but then it's like you're constantly looking over your shoulder like, okay, when is it going to hit? When is it going to hit? And like that's how Bishop Kevin Wallace was just like, it's not biblical.
Yeah.
When people say that, like, oh, just because you're progressing, it doesn't mean that the enemy's going to target you. That's not biblical.
Yeah.
Like,
The glory of God is protecting your back, is literally what it says.
you got to hold on to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of
What's
stuff.
the matter, buddy?
On the top of 188, I feel like I'll talk about this and then I'll kind of summarize what I felt about it. But so he whispers softer and softer, so that we have to get closer and closer. And when we finally get close enough, he envelops us in his arms and tells us that he loves us. And to me, this whole epilogue just kind of summarizes that if we don't hear God's voice and a voice of love, then we don't hear God's voice.
Amen.
And we can hear our version of God, but what he's really saying is always enveloped in love. And if we don't hear his voice in a loving, fatherly way, like even yesterday we were talking about pain and how God uses pain. But if we don't see what God is doing in our life as loving, then it's not how he intended for us to see, or the way that he wanted us to experience it. And even me, like things that I've gone through in my life, like having seizures and going through sickness, and at the time, like I didn't see how God could be in that at all. Like God, how could you allow me to experience it? But now, 10 years later, looking back, like God was in it every single step of the way. And I'm so thankful for that season of my life. Like I truly know God more and know his love and know his grace and know his healing because of that season. But if I hadn't have gone through that, I would have never known him this way. And so if you don't hear him in love, then you don't hear who he really is.
You're putting it through your filter, your warped filter
Your
about
flesh
what you
filter.
think about God,
Yeah.
rather than the true heart of God and who he truly is. Somebody else.
That next section. Sorry, I'm so emotional. The 7-word section.
Yeah, so good.
Our youngest daughter has cleft lip, cleft palate, and just the other night I was praying for her healing because she's getting ready to go into middle school, and I know what's coming, and it just breaks my heart, and everything that she's gone through. But the best part of it is that when CJ and I first saw her, we got to say, "I wish you were my little girl," and then she became our little girl, and now I get to say to her every day, "You are my little girl." And I love you so much. And I know that that's what God does for me, too. Sorry, this whole sacred scene. You guys are killing me. I need to go back to a Baptist church.
No, you don't.
Home, bro.
Can I use John DeHaven's white cloth to wipe my eyes?
Just pass it around.
So
I'm
good.
sorry.
That was so good.
Samantha, what you got?
Well, my favorite parts were like on 187, all the things that everybody touched, but especially that bottom part. The Archbishop said, "Every Christian I meet, I cannot quite believe that they are loved by God." But I like the section right below it where it says, "Believe it or not, God loves you, and He actually likes you. In fact, He is especially fond of you, and that's why He whispers." So, yep, I'm gonna cry too if I keep talking, so I'm done. Yeah, He doesn't just love you, like He likes you, like He likes everything about you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even the stuff you don't like about yourself. Isn't that amazing?
yeah.
The stuff that you would say, "God, why would you do this to me? Why would you give me this or make me this way?" And God's like, "Oh, that's exactly how I created you." You tell sacred season is coming to an end, can't you? What is happening? All right, Johnny or Tobin, one of you, because y'all never cry. So one of y'all stone cold killers got to go now. Somebody asked one of our members the other day. They were like, "Pastor really does he like is he being serious when he cries? Is he like is he faking that on stage?" And Travis was like, "He cries about everything."
It's so true, though. Like, I say that to myself all the time with my anxiety and my depression or whatever, everything that comes along with it. Like, why, God, why would you give that to me? Like, and you just don't think, like, you think you're being punished, like how Joseph had said yesterday. Like, just because I wasn't brought up in it and didn't really, like, understand it, that same thing. Like, what did I do wrong that you have given this burden to me? Because it is such a burden. But then just, like what you said, no, like, He gave it to me for a reason, and He likes me, and He loves me, and He made me this way for a reason, like, to show God's glory and to show His grace to other people, and just to be able to one day eventually, when I get a little bit stronger, I'll be able to, speak more into it, into people's lives, and I just have to find the joy in it, like Pastor Cliff said, like, just worship Him through these seasons. Yeah.
You got something?
Yeah, I got some.
Stone cold killer. Let's do it.
You saw me on the wedding day. There was a few things that stood out to me, but same page 187, where he said that A.W. Tozer said, "What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us." And I remember, like, in the past, like, there was a time that this guy was a bunch of soccer players on Zoom, and this guy was saying, kind of like talking to us about hearing the voice of God, and he's like, grab a paper and write one word to describe who God is to you. And everybody wrote that one word, and he was like, whatever you wrote is probably the truths or lies that you believe about God. And so, like, even just looking at that was kind of spoke to me, like, because I remember the first word I wrote, and that can really like affect the way you actually view God. And so, and then he goes on to say that his love includes tough love, and we might not enjoy those tough talks all the time, but God's always has our best interests at heart. And it's like, I know there's some things that you go through in this life, and you're just like, is this really who you are? Like Simeon was talking about, but we have to always like see it as like, man, no matter what's happening, like it's like God is still like speaking love over us. You know, it might be like warped in our own minds, but it doesn't change like his character and who he is. And so yeah, that definitely spoke out to me.
Yeah, the last part of the book, 189, very end, the mother's voice leaves a natural fingerprint, imprints the baby's brain. I made a bold statement at the beginning of the book. What we perceive to be relational, emotional, or spiritual problems are, in fact, hearing problems. It's abnormal imprinting. We've been defined by the voice of conformity, the voice of criticism, and the voice of condemnation, and the side effects are loneliness, shame, and anxiety. The good news, you're imprinted by God. You not only bear his image, but you know his voice. His voice knit you together in your mother's womb. His voice that has ordained all the days before one of them came to be. And it's his voice that has begun a good work in you, and his voice that will carry it to completion. So powerful. I think, to me, so often, just partnering with what Tobina said, so often our perspective of who God is just so warped, and such abnormal imprinting of the things he's saying over us. And he's singing beautiful songs over us, loves us, passionately loves us, and we know his voice. People who say, I can't hear the voice of God, you know his voice. It's been speaking to you since you were formed, since you were knit together. It's been ordaining your days. It's the one that has started a good work in you and will finish the work that was started in you. Anybody else got anything? No?
It's a good book.
Nobody else got anything? I'll move on if you want me to.
I mean, you could go right to that very next line, whether you recognize it or not. God was the first voice in your life. Like, you could just think, if you have doubts or questions, about that whole natural imprinting thing, mothers, how the babies imprint on that at months. And then, not for me necessarily, but for anybody out there that's struggling with, well, my mother gave me up for adoption, or you know what I mean? I didn't have a good home life. My mother was abusive, or like, she didn't want me anyways. If you have those doubts in your mind, you could just go back to just that line and just excuse all of those things going through your mind and just say, it's okay because God was the first voice in your life. Amen. You know what I mean? It's just one of those, like, shut those moments up and just remember that God was the first voice in your life.
Yeah, I feel like we could have just read this whole chapter out loud. It's so good. Or not even a chapter, whatever it is, the whisper test, epilogue. Anyways, thanks for spending some time with us. Thank you for reading this book with us. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and are wanting to participate in the next one with us, and finish strong. Sacred Season's got a couple more days left, so finish strong. Don't give up, and come in Sunday ready to see what God is going to do. It's going to be awesome. All right. Love you guys. God bless. Peace out. Peace. Let's go.